The champagne glass shattered against marble, and Lena Carter's world shattered with it. Standing in her dead father's mansion, now stripped bare under her stepmother's manicured claws, she wasn't a guest. She was the help, the ghost, the girl everyone had learned to look through. But tonight, that changes. Because the man in the shadows, he knows what they did. He knows about the fraud, the theft, the frame-up waiting to spring shut around her throat. And he's offering her a way out that might destroy her faster than they ever could. Before we begin, drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far Lena's story travels. Hit that like button, and let's dive in. The Belmont estate smelled like old money and fresh lies. Lena Carter stood in the corner of the grand ballroom, a silver tray balanced on her palm, watching her stepsister Vanessa glide through the crowd like she owned the place. Which, legally speaking, she did. Or at least that's what the paperwork said. The irony wasn't lost on Lena. 3 years ago, this had been her home. Her father's home. Before the cancer took him. Before the will was read. Before everything that mattered got swallowed whole by Gloria Carter. Formerly Gloria Hayes, professional widow and full-time vulture. More champagne over here, Lena turned. Some executive type was snapping his fingers at her like she was a dog. She walked over, poured, smiled with her mouth but not her eyes. He didn't notice. They never did. That was the thing about being invisible. People said whatever they wanted around you. Did you see the ring Marcus gave her? A woman in a dress that cost more than Lena made in 6 months leaned toward her friend. 8 carats. Flawless. Vanessa always gets what she wants. Well, when your family owns half the commercial real estate in the city, Lena's jaw tightened. Your family, not Vanessa's family, not Gloria's family, her father's empire. Built from nothing, and now carved up and paraded around by people who hadn't earned a single brick of it. She moved through the crowd, refilling glasses, collecting empties, doing her best impression of furniture. The engagement party was in full swing. Vanessa had landed Marcus Chen, old money, venture capital, the kind of pedigree Gloria had been salivating over for years. The wedding was set for June. 6 months of this to look forward to. Lena. She froze. Turned. Gloria Carter stood there dressed in emerald silk that probably cost more than Lena's car. If Lena still had a car. Gloria's smile was sharp enough to cut glass. We're running low on the Perrier Jouet. Be a dear and grab another case from the wine cellar. Of course. Lena's voice came out flat, professional, dead. Gloria's eyes flickered with something, satisfaction, maybe. Or just the casual cruelty of someone who'd gotten exactly what they wanted. And Lena? Try to be quick about it. We have standards to maintain. Lena nodded and walked toward the back hallway, tray still balanced, face still blank. She'd gotten good at this. The invisible act. It was safer than the alternative. The wine cellar was in the basement, accessed through the kitchen. Lena pushed through the swinging door and nearly collided with one of the catering staff. Sorry. The girl, maybe 19, juggled a tray of canapes. God, this place is insane. You work here full-time? Something like that. Must be nice. I mean, not the work, but like being around all this. She gestured vaguely at the marble countertops, the restaurant-grade appliances. Rich people, you know. Lena smiled, bitter. Yeah, must be nice. She grabbed her keys, one of the few things Gloria had bothered to give her, and headed down the narrow staircase to the cellar. The temperature dropped 10 degrees. The noise from the party faded to a muffled thrum. Down here, in the dark, Lena could almost breathe. She found the champagne, started loading bottles into a crate. Her hands moved on autopilot. Her mind was elsewhere. 3 years. 3 years since her father died and the world turned inside out. She still remembered the lawyer's office, the reading of the will, sitting there in a black dress that didn't fit right, grieving and exhausted, while Gloria sat beside her with Vanessa on the other side. To my beloved daughter, Lena, I leave the estate, the property holdings, and controlling interest in Carter Development Group with the condition that that's where it had all gone wrong. The condition. A clause about Lena being of sound mind and capable of managing the inheritance. A clause that, according to Gloria's lawyers, Lena had failed to meet due to mental instability and reckless behavior in the months following her father's death. Which was bullshit. Lena had been grieving, She'd missed some classes, stopped answering her phone. Normal things when your only parent dies and you're 22 years old and the world feels like it's caving in. But Gloria's legal team had twisted it into something else, painted her as unstable, unfit, dangerous even. And because Gloria had been married to Lena's father for 5 years before his death, because she was listed as a co-trustee, because the legal system moved like molasses, and Lena couldn't afford the kind of lawyers Gloria could, the inheritance went to Gloria. Temporarily, they said, until Lena demonstrates stability. That was 3 years ago. Lena was still waiting. She hauled the crate upstairs, muscles burning, set it down in the kitchen, started loading bottles onto a serving cart. "You look like you want to stab someone." Lena glanced up. One of the bartenders, Diego, mid-30s, tattoo sleeves, generally decent human being, was mixing a cocktail and watching her with amusement. Just thinking. Dangerous. He poured vodka with practiced precision, especially in this crowd. These people would eat you alive if they thought you had opinions. Good thing I don't exist to them. Yeah, well, their loss. He slid the cocktail across the bar to a waiting server. For what it's worth, I've worked a lot of these things. This family? He lowered his voice. Something's off. The way that stepmother of yours looks at you, I don't know, just watch your back. Lena almost laughed. Thanks for the advice. I'm serious. Diego's expression shifted, genuine concern breaking through the casual banter. I've seen women like her before. They don't stop until they've taken everything. Too late for that. She pushed the cart back toward the ballroom. The noise hit her like a wall. Laughter, clinking glasses, a string quartet playing something classical and boring. Vanessa was holding court near the fireplace, Marcus at her side, admirers clustered around like moths. Lena started making rounds again, pouring, smiling, disappearing. Heard the development project in the Riverside district is moving forward. Gloria's a genius, turning that liability into profit. Carter Development stock is up 12% this quarter. Every word was a knife. That was her father's company, his vision, his legacy, and Gloria was running it into the ground chasing short-term profits and reputation. Lena was refilling an empty glass when she felt it. Eyes on her. Not the usual glance and dismiss. This was different, focused, deliberate. She looked up. A man stood across the room, half hidden in the shadowed alcove near the terrace doors. Tall. Dark suit that fit too well to be off the rack. Sharp features, angular jaw, eyes that caught the light like black glass. He was staring directly at her. Lena's breath caught. She looked away quickly, heart suddenly hammering. When she glanced back, he was still watching. No smile, no acknowledgement, just that steady, unnerving focus. Who the hell was he? Lena! Vanessa's voice cut through the noise. Come here. Oh no! Lena walked over, tray balanced, face carefully neutral. Vanessa was surrounded by her usual crowd. Marcus, a few college friends who'd married well, a couple of business associates kissing up to the future Mrs. Chen. Everyone, this is Lena, my stepsister. Vanessa's smile was poison wrapped in sugar. She's been such a help tonight. Haven't you, Lena? Happy to help. The words tasted like ash. Lena used to live here, actually. Vanessa sipped her champagne, eyes glittering. Before things changed. Oh. One of the women tilted her head, curiosity sharpening her features. You're Gloria's stepdaughter? I am. And you work for the catering company now? The question hung there, loaded. Lena could feel the judgment, the pity, the schadenfreude. I work where I'm needed, Lena said evenly. Vanessa laughed. Light, musical, cruel. She's so humble. Honestly, Lena, you should be proud. Not everyone can handle a fall from grace with such dignity. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. At least he had the decency to look embarrassed. The others just watched, hungry for drama. Lena's hands tightened on the tray. She wanted to throw it, wanted to scream, wanted to tell Vanessa exactly what she thought of her and her stolen life and her blood diamond engagement ring. But she didn't, because that's what they wanted, a reaction. Proof that she was unstable, unfit, everything Gloria's lawyers had claimed. So instead, Lena smiled. Congratulations on the engagement, Vanessa. I hope you're very happy. She turned and walked away before Vanessa could twist the knife deeper. The terrace doors were open, letting in cool night air. Lena slipped outside, tray abandoned on a side table. She needed space, needed to breathe, needed to not be surrounded by people who'd taken everything and then laughed about it. The terrace overlooked the gardens, her father's gardens, which he'd designed himself. Roses and lavender and night-blooming jasmine. The scent hit her hard, memory crashing through her defenses. "Come on, Lena Bean, help me with these." Her father, dirt on his hands, grinning as he showed her how to prune the roses without getting scratched. "Why do you do this yourself, Dad? We have gardeners." "Because some things matter too much to delegate. Besides, I like getting my hands dirty. Keeps me honest." Lena's throat burned. She blinked hard, refusing to cry. "Not here. Not where someone might see." "You handle that better than I would." She spun around. The man from inside stood a few feet away, hands in his pockets, expression unreadable in the dim light. Up close, he was even more unsettling, the kind of handsome that wasn't safe, all hard edges and controlled intensity. "Excuse me?" "Your stepsister." He stepped closer, moving like a predator, smooth, deliberate. "She was trying to humiliate you. You didn't give her the satisfaction." Lena's pulse kicked up. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do." He stopped a few feet away, studying her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. "Lena Carter, daughter of Richard Carter, founder of Carter Development Group, sole heir to a fortune currently being managed, or mismanaged, depending on who you ask, by your stepmother Gloria." Ice flooded Lena's veins. "Who are you?" "Adrian Wolfe." The name meant nothing to her, but the way he said it, like it should, set off alarm bells. "And why exactly are you reciting my biography at my stepsister's engagement party?" "Because I know what they did to you." Adrian's voice was calm, matter-of-fact. "I know about the will, the clause, the legal maneuvering that stole your inheritance. I know about the property sold off, the accounts drained, the development deals that enriched Gloria and her daughter, while you—" He glanced at the discarded serving tray. "Well, while you serve champagne to people who don't remember your name." Lena's hands curled into fists. "You need to leave." "Not yet. I'll call security." "No, you won't." Adrian tilted his head slightly. "Because you want to know how I know all this. And more importantly, you want to know why I'm telling you." Damn him. He was right. Lena crossed her arms, defensive. "Fine. Why?" "Because in approximately 48 hours you're going to be arrested." The world tilted. "What?" "Fraud, embezzlement, theft of company assets." Adrian rattled off the charges like he was reading a grocery list. "Gloria's been setting it up for months. Falsified documents with your signature. Transfers from company accounts to offshore holdings. A paper trail that leads directly to you." "That's insane. I don't have access to any company accounts. I don't even—" "I know, but the evidence says otherwise. And when the police show up with a warrant, when the news breaks, when your face is plastered across every financial blog and tabloid in the city," he paused. "Well, Gloria gets to play the victim, the betrayed stepmother. And you get to be exactly what she's always claimed, reckless, unstable, criminal." Lena's mind raced. This couldn't be real. This had to be some kind of sick joke. But the look in Adrian's eyes said otherwise. "Why are you telling me this?" Her voice came out hoarse. "What do you want?" "To make you an offer. I don't have anything you could possibly want." Adrian smiled. It wasn't reassuring. "You'd be surprised." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a folder, held it out. Lena stared at it like it might explode. "What is that?" "Insurance. Proof of what Gloria's done. Copies of the falsified documents, bank records, communications between her and her lawyers. Everything you'd need to fight back." He paused. "If you had the resources to fight." Lena's heart hammered. "And I'm guessing you're offering those resources." "In exchange for something, yes." "Money? I don't have—" "Not money." Adrian's gaze locked on hers, dark and unflinching. "I want you to marry me." The words hung in the air between them, absurd and impossible. Lena laughed. It came out shaky, borderline hysterical. "You're insane. I'm serious. You don't even know me." "I know enough." Adrian's expression didn't change. I know you're desperate. I know you're out of options. I know that in 2 days, your life as you know it ends, unless you accept my offer. Why? Lena's voice cracked. Why would you want to marry someone you don't know? Why would you care about any of this? Because I need a wife, for reasons that are my own, and you need protection, resources, and leverage against the people who stole your life. He gestured with the folder. This is a business transaction, nothing more. 2 years. You play the role of Mrs. Adrian Wolfe, attend the necessary events, maintain appearances. In exchange, I provide legal representation, financial backing, and the social capital to destroy Gloria's credibility. This is insane, Lena repeated, but her voice wavered. Because it was insane. But it was also the only lifeline anyone had thrown her in 3 years. Adrian watched her, patient, like he knew exactly which way this was going to go. What happens after 2 years? Lena asked quietly. Divorce. Clean, amicable, predetermined terms. You walk away with your inheritance restored, your name cleared, and enough financial independence to never worry about money again. And you get what? A trophy wife for 2 years? I get a partner who understands that this is a transaction, who won't develop inconvenient emotional attachments or expectations, who can play the part convincingly enough to satisfy certain business requirements. His expression darkened slightly. And who has as much to lose as I do if this arrangement falls apart? Lena's thoughts spun. This was crazy. Marrying a stranger, trusting a man who'd appeared out of nowhere with detailed knowledge of her life and a folder full of evidence that should be impossible to obtain. But the alternative was arrest, criminal charges, her name dragged through the mud. Gloria winning, again. I need time to think. You have until tomorrow at noon. Adrian pulled out a business card, set it on the terrace railing. After that, the offer expires, and the police show up 48 hours later. He turned to leave. Wait. Lena's voice stopped him. Why me? There have to be 1,000 women in this city who'd marry you for the right price. Why go through all this trouble? Adrian looked back at her, and for the first time, something almost like emotion flickered across his face. Because you have something they don't. What's that? Nothing left to lose. He walked back inside, disappearing into the crowd. Lena stood there, wind pulling at her hair, the folder sitting on the railing like a bomb waiting to detonate. She picked it up, opened it. The documents inside were meticulously organized. Bank statements, emails, legal filings. All of it pointing to a coordinated effort to frame her for crimes she didn't commit. And at the bottom of the stack, a handwritten note. They took everything from you once. Don't let them do it again. A.W. Lena's hands shook. She looked back through the terrace doors into the glittering ballroom where Gloria schmoozed with investors and Vanessa posed for photos, and everyone drank expensive champagne in the house that should have been Lena's. Adrian was right. She had nothing left to lose. And maybe, just maybe, that made her dangerous. The next morning, Lena sat in a coffee shop 3 blocks from her apartment, the folder spread across the table, her phone in her hand. She'd been staring at Adrian's business card for 20 minutes. The smart thing would be to walk away. Report this to who? The police? They were about to arrest her. A lawyer? She couldn't afford one. Gloria? That was a joke. No. The smart thing had stopped being an option about 3 years ago. Lena dialed. He answered on the first ring. Yes or no? No greeting, no pleasantries. Straight to business. Lena took a breath. I have conditions. I'm listening. First, I want full access to all evidence against Gloria, not just what's in this folder. Everything. Done. Second, if we're doing this, I want a real lawyer, someone who works for me, not you, someone I can trust. I'll provide a list. You choose. Third, Lena hesitated, I want the truth. Why do you really need a wife? Silence on the other end. That's not part of the deal, Adrian said finally. Then we don't have a deal. More silence. Lena's heart hammered. She was gambling everything on this moment, and she had no idea if... I have a trust fund, Adrian said quietly. Substantial. Set up by my grandfather before he died. Stipulation is that I have to be married by my 35th birthday, or it goes to my cousin, who will run the family company into the ground inside a year. When's your birthday? 3 months. Lena blinked. You waited until 3 months before the deadline to find a wife? I had other priorities. His tone didn't invite further questions. Do we have a deal or not? Lena closed her eyes, saw her father's face, saw the gardens he'd built, saw every moment of the last 3 years, the humiliation, the poverty, the invisibility. Saw Vanessa's smirk, Gloria's cold satisfaction, the life they'd stolen. She opened her eyes. Yes. Good. I'll send a car for you at 2. We have paperwork to sign. Wait, today? The wedding's in 3 days. We don't have time to waste. The call ended. Lena sat there, coffee going cold, reality sinking in. She'd just agreed to marry a stranger, to save herself from a crime she didn't commit, using evidence obtained by a man she didn't trust. In 3 days. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Black car, 2 p.m. Don't be late. And pack a bag. You're moving out of that apartment today. Lena stared at the message. Then she started laughing. Because what else was there to do? The barista looked over, concerned. Lena waved her off, still laughing, tears starting to stream down her face. 3 years she'd been invisible. 3 years she'd played by the rules. 3 years she'd waited for justice that never came. Well, no more. If Adrian Wolfe wanted to make her visible, if he wanted to turn her into a weapon against the people who'd destroyed her life, then fine. She'd be the sharpest blade he'd ever wielded. And when this was over, when Gloria and Vanessa were buried under the weight of their own crimes, when Lena finally had everything back, then she'd decide what to do about the devil she'd made a deal with. She grabbed her phone and called her landlord, gave notice effective immediately. Then she went back to her apartment, a studio in a building with permanent water damage and neighbors who fought at 2 a.m. and started packing. It didn't take long. 3 years of poverty meant 3 years of not accumulating much worth keeping. At exactly 2 p.m., a black Mercedes pulled up outside. The driver got out, nodded politely. Miss Carter? That's me? He opened the door. Lena slid inside, one bag to her name, no idea what came next. The car pulled away from the curb. Lena looked back once. At the building that had been her cage, her punishment, her reminder of everything she'd lost. Then she turned forward, toward whatever the hell came next. The drive took 30 minutes, winding through the city until they reached the financial district. The car pulled up to a high-rise, all glass and steel, the kind of building that screamed money and power. Adrian was waiting in the lobby. He looked different in daylight. No less dangerous, but more human. Almost. This way. He led her to the elevators, up to the 42nd floor. His office, apparently. Corner suite, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, minimalist furniture that probably cost more than Lena's entire apartment building. A woman in her 50s sat at the conference table, files spread in front of her. She stood when they entered. Lena, this is Margaret Chen. She'll be handling the legal aspects of our arrangement. Margaret offered her hand. Her grip was firm, professional. Ms. Carter, pleasure to meet you. Likewise. Lena glanced at Adrian. Any relation to Marcus Chen? Distant cousin, Margaret said neutrally. But I assure you, my loyalty in this matter is to you and Mr. Wolfe, not to any peripheral family connections. Good to know. They sat. Margaret slid a document across the table. This is the prenuptial agreement. It outlines the terms of your marriage, including duration, financial arrangements, public conduct expectations, and dissolution procedures. Lena started reading. It was thorough, brutal even. 2 years, as Adrian had said. She'd receive a monthly stipend, access to legal resources, and housing. In exchange, she'd attend designated events, maintain the appearance of a legitimate marriage, and not engage in any behavior that might damage Adrian's reputation. There's a morality clause, Lena noted. Standard, Margaret said. It protects both parties from scandalous behavior. And the divorce terms? Clean split. No alimony, but you'll receive a settlement of $5 million upon completion of the 2-year term. Additionally, Mr. Wolfe will fund any legal action you wish to pursue against your stepmother, up to a cap of $10 million. Lena's breath caught. $10 million. That was more than enough. more than she'd ever dreamed of having to fight Gloria. "What if I want out before 2 years?" she asked. Adrian spoke for the first time. "Then you forfeit the settlement and the legal support. What if you want out?" "Same terms. This only works if we both commit." Lena looked at him, really looked, trying to find the catch, the hidden trap, but his expression gave nothing away. "I'll need to read this thoroughly before I sign." "Of course," Margaret stood. "Take your time. I'll be in the next room if you have questions." She left. Lena and Adrian sat in silence for a moment. "You can trust Margaret," Adrian said finally. "She's been my lawyer for 8 years, and she's good." "You told me to choose my own lawyer." "I said I'd provide a list. You're welcome to interview others, but time's not on our side." "Fair point." Lena read through the contract again, slower this time. The language was dense but clear. No hidden clauses, no traps that she could see. "This says I'll be living in your residence." "Yes." "Separate bedrooms?" "Separate wings, if you prefer. The penthouse has space." Of course it did. "And the public appearances?" "Charity galas, business dinners, occasional photos for social media. Nothing too invasive." He paused. "I'm not interested in a media circus. Just enough visibility to satisfy the trust fund requirements." "Which are?" "Public evidence of a legitimate marriage, photos, joint appearances, witness testimony if it comes to that." Lena set down the contract. "This is insane." "You've said that already." "Because it is." Adrian leaned forward slightly. "Let me be clear, Lena. I'm not doing this out of charity. I need this marriage as much as you do. Maybe more. So yes, it's insane. Yes, it's unconventional, but it's also mutually beneficial, and right now it's the only option either of us has." He wasn't wrong. Lena picked up a pen, stared at the signature line. Everything hinged on this moment. Sign, and she was bound to this stranger for 2 years. Refuse, and she went back to her life, which was about to implode spectacularly in 48 hours. Not much of a choice. She signed. Adrian took the document, added his signature below hers, dated it. "Welcome to the arrangement, Mrs. Wolfe." The name sent a chill down her spine. "When's the wedding?" "Friday. Small ceremony, immediate family only, which in our case means witnesses and an officiant." He stood. "You'll stay at the penthouse starting tonight. My assistant will help you get settled." "And my stuff?" "Already being moved." Of course it was. Lena stood, legs shaky. "What happens now?" "Now, you prepare. The ceremony's at 2. After that, we have a dinner. Saturday, we make the public announcement. And Monday," his smile was sharp, "Monday, we go to war. Against Gloria, against Vanessa, against everyone who thought Lena Carter was too broken to fight back." Lena squared her shoulders. "Good." Adrian's expression shifted, just slightly. Something that might have been approval. "Come on, I'll show you the penthouse." They took the elevator up. The doors opened directly into the apartment, because of course they did. Rich people in their private elevators. The space was massive, open-concept living area with views that stretched across the entire city. Kitchen that looked like it belonged in a restaurant. Hallways leading to what Lena assumed were bedrooms. "Your wing is that way." Adrian pointed left. "Mine's the opposite direction. There's a shared office if you need workspace. Kitchen's stocked. Housekeeper comes twice a week." "Housekeeper?" "Yes. Is that a problem?" "No, Lena shook her head. "This is a lot to process." "You'll adjust." He checked his watch. "I have a meeting in 20 minutes. Make yourself comfortable. If you need anything, call my assistant. Her number's on the fridge." He turned to leave. "Adrian." He stopped. "Why did you really choose me?" Lena asked. "The truth." He was quiet for a long moment. "Because I've been watching Gloria Carter for 6 months, researching her methods, her vulnerabilities. And the most effective way to destroy someone like her is to take back what she stole. Publicly. Humiliatingly." He met Lena's eyes. "You're not just a convenient wife, you're the perfect weapon, and I have every intention of using you." He left. Lena stood there, heart pounding, his words echoing in her head. "You're the perfect weapon." Good. Because she was done being a victim. She walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows, looked out over the city. Somewhere down there, Gloria was celebrating. Vanessa was planning her wedding. They were living their stolen lives, thinking they'd won. They had no idea what was coming. Lena pressed her palm against the glass, cold seeping through. In 3 days, she'd be married. In 4, she'd be visible again. And after that, she'd burn down everything they'd built on her family's ashes. And she wouldn't lose a single night's sleep over it. The penthouse felt like a museum, beautiful, expensive, and completely lifeless. Lena spent the first hour walking through her assigned wing, opening doors, trying to wrap her head around the fact that this was temporarily hers. Master bedroom with a bed big enough for 4 people. Bathroom with a tub that could double as a small pool. Walk-in closet currently empty except for the 3 garbage bags of clothes she'd brought from her apartment. She unpacked slowly, hanging her clearance rack shirts next to built-in shelving clearly designed for designer wardrobes. The contrast was almost funny. Almost. Her phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Miss Carter, this is Diane, Mr. Wolf's assistant. The voice was brisk, professional. I'm calling to schedule your appointments for tomorrow. Appointments? Hair, makeup, wardrobe consultation. The wedding's Friday, and we need to ensure everything's ready. Right, the wedding. The fake wedding to a man she'd known for less than 24 hours. Normal Tuesday activities. What time? Lena asked. Car picks you up at 9. We'll start with wardrobe, then hair and makeup trial. Should be done by 4. Okay. Also, Mr. Wolf wanted me to inform you that his lawyer sent over the list of attorneys you requested. Check your email. Thanks. Diane hung up. No goodbye. Just click. Lena checked her email. Sure enough, there it was. A list of 15 lawyers, all specializing in estate litigation and fraud cases. Each name came with a bio, contact info, and a note about their relevant experience. Margaret Chen was at the top of the list, but there were others. Smaller firms. Solo practitioners. Each one carefully selected to give Lena actual choice. She had to admit, Adrian was thorough. She spent the next 2 hours researching, making calls, setting up consultations. By 6 p.m., she had 3 scheduled for the following week. After the wedding, after everything became real. Her stomach growled. She hadn't eaten since the coffee shop that morning. The kitchen was intimidating. All stainless steel and marble, appliances she didn't recognize, a fridge big enough to hide a body. She opened it, half expecting it to be empty. It wasn't. Someone had stocked it. Fresh vegetables, fruit, eggs, cheese, actual food. Not the ramen and frozen dinners she'd been living on for 3 years. Lena made herself an omelet, ate standing at the counter, looking out at the city lights spreading below like scattered stars. This was temporary. She had to remember that. 2 years. Just 2 years of playing a role, and then she'd have her life back. Her real life. The one Gloria stole. The elevator dinged. Lena turned. Adrian walked in, loosening his tie, looking tired in a way that made him seem almost human. You're still up, he said. Couldn't sleep. She gestured at her plate. Hope you don't mind. I raided the fridge. It's your fridge too, for the next 2 years. He poured himself a drink from a cabinet Lena hadn't noticed. Whiskey, straight. How are you settling in? It's a lot. You'll get used to it. Will I? Adrian looked at her over the rim of his glass. You grew up in money, didn't you, before Gloria? Not like this. My dad was successful, but he wasn't. She waved at the penthouse. He didn't do the whole luxury high-rise thing. We had a house, a garden, normal stuff. The Belmont estate. You've done your homework. I told you. I've been watching Gloria for 6 months. That includes knowing everything about you. He took a drink. Your father built Carter Development from nothing. Started as a construction foreman, worked his way up, bought his first property at 28, built an empire by the time he was 50. You sound like you admire him. I respect anyone who builds something real. Adrian's expression darkened. And I despise people who steal what they didn't earn. There was something personal in his tone, something that went beyond business. Is that what happened to you? Lena asked carefully. Someone stole from your family? Adrian's jaw tightened. That's not part of our arrangement. Right, business transaction. I forgot. Silence settled between them, awkward and heavy. The appointment's tomorrow, Adrian said finally. Diane briefed you? Yeah, wardrobe, hair, makeup, the full Cinderella treatment. It's necessary. The wedding photos will be public. We need to look legitimate. And I don't look legitimate as is. He studied her, not cruel, just analytical. You look like someone who's been surviving. I need you to look like someone who's thriving. Lena bristled. Thanks for the vote of confidence. I'm not trying to insult you. I'm being practical. He set down his glass. Friday, when we walk out of that courthouse as husband and wife, the world needs to believe it. That means selling the image, looking the part. So I'm a prop. We're both props. That's the point. He wasn't wrong, but it still stung. I talked to some of the lawyers on your list, Lena said, changing the subject. Set up meetings for next week. Good. The sooner we start building your case, the better. And Gloria? When does she find out about... Lena gestured between them. This? Saturday, after the wedding. We'll make the announcement at the Peninsula Club fundraiser. The what? High society charity event. 500 people, all the right connections. Gloria will be there. So will Vanessa and Marcus. Adrian's smile was sharp. It's the perfect venue to introduce Mrs. Adrian Wolfe. The name still felt foreign, wrong. She's going to lose it, Lena said quietly. I'm counting on it. And if she comes after me, tries to... She won't. Adrian's voice went cold. Because the moment she does, I'll release every piece of evidence I have on her fraud, her embezzlement, her conspiracy to frame you. She touches you, and I bury her, publicly. Lena believed him, which was almost more terrifying than Gloria. Why do you hate her so much? She asked. You said you've been watching her for 6 months. That's not normal business research. That's personal. Adrian was quiet for a long moment. Then, she destroyed someone I cared about, a business partner. He invested everything in a development deal with Carter Development. Gloria convinced him to sign contracts that left him exposed when the project failed. He lost everything, his company, his reputation, his marriage. He paused. He killed himself 2 years ago. The words hung in the air, heavy and final. I'm sorry, Lena said. Don't be. Just help me make sure she pays for it. He finished his drink and walked toward his wing of the penthouse. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be long. He disappeared down the hallway, leaving Lena alone with the city lights and the weight of what she'd agreed to. She washed her plate, turned off the lights, went back to her room. Sleep didn't come easy. The next morning, the black car arrived at exactly 9. Lena climbed in, still half asleep, coffee in hand. The driver took her to a building in the fashion district. Understated entrance, no signage. The kind of place that didn't need to advertise. Inside, a woman in her 40s greeted her, elegant, composed, assessing Lena with the practiced eye of someone who dressed people for a living. Miss Carter, I'm Elena. Mr. Wolfe asked me to help you prepare for Friday. Call me Lena. Lena, then. Come. We have much to do. The next 4 hours were a blur. Elena pulled dresses, suits, shoes, accessories. Each outfit was tried on, assessed, adjusted, or rejected. Lana felt like a doll being dressed and redressed, Elena's assistant swooping in with pins and measuring tapes. For the wedding, we want elegant but not ostentatious, Elena said, holding up a cream-colored dress. Simple lines, classic cut, expensive fabric. You're marrying Adrian Wolfe, not auditioning for a royal wedding. Sophisticated, confident. Lena tried it on. It fit perfectly, which shouldn't have been possible, but Elena somehow knew her measurements without asking. How does it feel? Elena asked. Like I'm playing dress-up. You'll get used to it. Elena adjusted the sleeve slightly. Mr. Wolfe mentioned you'll need a wardrobe for public events, galas, dinners, business functions. I've selected pieces that will work for multiple occasions. He's really thought of everything. He's thorough. It's why he's successful. Elena stepped back, evaluating. This dress? Yes, this is the one. Lena looked at herself in the mirror. The woman staring back didn't look like the girl who'd served champagne 3 nights ago. She looked different, put together, like she belonged in Adrian's world. It was unsettling. After wardrobe came hair and makeup, another sleek building, another team of professionals who descended on Lena like she was a project to be perfected. The stylist, Marcus, not to be confused with Vanessa's fiancé, ran his hands through her hair, tisking. When was the last time you had a proper cut? 6 months? Maybe longer. We're fixing that today. He spun her chair toward the mirror. And color? Have you been doing box dye? Can't afford the salon stuff. Well, that ends now. He caught her eye in the reflection. Adrian's instructions were clear. Make you look like yourself, only better. Not a transformation, an elevation. You understand? Lena nodded. Good. Because I've seen too many women lose themselves trying to become someone else for a man. Even in arrangements like this. He started sectioning her hair. You have beautiful features, strong bone structure. We're just going to polish what's already there. 3 hours later, Lena barely recognized herself. Her hair was shorter, shaped to frame her face instead of just hanging there. The color was richer, healthier. The makeup was subtle but effective, enhancing without masking. There, Marcus said, satisfied. That's the woman who's about to marry one of the most powerful men in the city. Lena stared at her reflection. He was right. She looked like she belonged, like she was someone who mattered. It had been so long since she'd felt that way. Her phone buzzed. Text from Adrian. How'd it go? Weird, but good, I think. Diane will send you the event details for Saturday. Black tie. Car picks you up at 7. Okay. And Lena? Yeah? Thank you for doing this. She stared at the message. It was the first time he'd said anything resembling gratitude. Thank you for giving me a way out, she typed back. No response, but she hadn't expected one. The car took her back to the penthouse. It was almost 5. Adrian wasn't home yet. Lena changed into comfortable clothes, made herself dinner, tried to settle into some semblance of routine. This was her life now, at least for 2 years. She was washing dishes when the elevator dinged again. Adrian walked in with another man. Late 30s, athletic build, easy smile, the opposite of Adrian's controlled intensity. Lena, this is James Reeves, my business partner. James offered his hand. The famous Lena Carter. Adrian's told me about you. All good things, I hope. Mostly confusing things, James grinned. But I'm adaptable. Congratulations on the upcoming nuptials. Thanks. Lena glanced at Adrian. Does he know? James knows everything, Adrian said. He's one of 3 people outside this arrangement who does. 4, if you count Margaret, James corrected. He grabbed a beer from the fridge like he owned the place. I've known Adrian since college. Seen him do a lot of calculated things. But marrying a woman he met 3 days ago to secure a trust fund? That's a new one. 2 days, Lena said. We met 2 days ago. James laughed. Even better. You two are either brilliant or insane. Why not both? Adrian muttered. They moved to the living area. James sprawled on the couch, completely at ease. Adrian sat across from him, still in work mode despite the late hour. So, James said, looking at Lena, what's your story? Adrian gave me the overview, but I want to hear it from you. Lena hesitated, but something about James's casual demeanor made it easier to talk. She told him about her father, Gloria, the stolen inheritance, the 3 years of barely surviving while her stepmother lived in luxury, the impending frame-up. James listened, his expression growing darker. That's some next-level evil stepmom shit, he said when she finished. That's one way to put it. And you're sure about this plan? Marrying Adrian, going public, picking a fight with someone who's already tried to destroy you once? I'm sure I'm tired of being destroyed, Lena said. If this is my chance to fight back, I'm taking it. James nodded slowly. Fair enough. He looked at Adrian. You picked a good one. She's got spine. I know. Just make sure you don't screw this up, both of you. Because if this goes sideways, it's not just the trust fund you'll lose. It's your reputations, your credibility, everything. Thanks for the vote of confidence, Adrian said dryly. Hey, I'm your friend. I'm supposed to tell you when you're being an idiot. James stood, finished his beer. But I'm also supposed to support you. So, bachelor party? Absolutely not. Come on, one night, nothing crazy. Just drinks and… No, James sighed. You're no fun. Fine. But I'm taking you out after the wedding. That's non-negotiable. We'll see. James left and the penthouse fell quiet again. Adrian looked at Lena. He means well. He seems nice, normal even. He is, which is why we've stayed friends for 15 years. Adrian stood. I have work to finish. You good? Yeah, I'm fine. He started toward his wing, then stopped. The stylist did good work. You look like someone who belongs in your world. Like yourself, only not beaten down by 3 years of hell. He walked away before she could respond. Lena sat there, processing. Adrian wasn't what she'd expected. Cold, yes. Calculating, absolutely. But there were moments, brief, fleeting, where something else showed through. Something almost human. She shook her head. Dangerous thoughts. This was business, nothing more. But as she got ready for bed that night, she couldn't help thinking about the way he'd looked at her. Like he saw the person she used to be. Before Gloria. Before everything fell apart. Like he saw someone worth saving. Friday morning arrived too fast. Lena woke up at 7, stomach churning. Today. The wedding was today. She showered, did her makeup carefully, following the tutorial Marcus had given her. Put on the cream dress Elena had selected. Looked at herself in the mirror. This was it. The moment everything changed. The elevator opened at 1:30. Adrian stood there in a dark suit, looking unfairly composed. Ready? He asked. No, but let's do it anyway. The courthouse was downtown. They arrived separately, Adrian's idea to avoid paparazzi. Margaret was waiting inside with 2 witnesses Lena had never met. Associates from Adrian's firm, apparently. The ceremony was brief, perfunctory. The officiant read the standard vows. Adrian slipped a ring on Lena's finger. Simple platinum band, no engagement ring. She did the same for him. I now pronounce you husband and wife. And just like that, Lena Carter became Lena Wolfe. They signed the certificate, posed for one official photo. The witnesses congratulated them with professional smiles. 15 minutes, start to finish. Well, Lena said as they walked back to the car. That was romantic. It was efficient. Adrian opened the door for her. The romance is for tomorrow, when we sell this to 500 people who will believe anything if it's packaged correctly. Cynical. Realistic. They went back to the penthouse, ordered dinner from some restaurant Lena couldn't pronounce, ate in relative silence, both processing what they'd just done. How does it feel? Adrian asked eventually. Being married? Exactly the same as being single. Except now I have a ring and a piece of paper that says I'm legally bound to someone I barely know. Give it time. You might actually start to tolerate me. Might. He almost smiled. Almost. Saturday came with a vengeance. Lena spent the day preparing. Hair, makeup, dress, a midnight blue gown that Elena had described as devastating in its simplicity. Jewelry borrowed from some collection Lena didn't ask about. By the time she was ready, she looked like someone else entirely. Someone who belonged at high society fundraisers. Someone who could stand next to Adrian Wolfe and not look out of place. Adrian was waiting in the living room when she emerged. He turned, and for a second something flickered across his face. You look incredible, he said. Thanks. You clean up okay yourself. Shall we? The Peninsula Club was exactly what Lena expected. Old money, older traditions, crystal chandeliers and waiters in white gloves. The kind of place where her father would have been uncomfortable despite his wealth. They arrived together this time. Walked in arm, Adrian's hand warm against her back. The room fell quiet. People stared, whispered. Lena felt their eyes like physical weight. Smile, Adrian murmured. You're supposed to look happy. I'm supposed to look like I married you for love, not leverage. Same thing, in our circle. He guided her through the crowd, making introductions. Business associates, old friends, people whose names Lena recognized from Forbes lists and charity galas. And then, across the room, she saw her. Gloria. Her stepmother stood near the bar, champagne in hand, deep in conversation with someone Lena didn't recognize. She hadn't seen them yet. There, Lena said quietly. Adrian followed her gaze. Want to make the introduction now or wait? Now, before I lose my nerve. They walked over. Gloria saw them coming, her expression shifting from polite interest to confusion to recognition. Her face went white. Gloria, Adrian said smoothly. What a pleasure. I don't believe you've met my wife. Gloria's eyes went to Lena, then to the ring on her finger, then back to Adrian. Your wife? Lena Wolf, Adrian said, though you know her as Lena Carter, your stepdaughter. The silence that followed was beautiful. Gloria's composure cracked, just for a second, but Lena saw it, the shock, the fury, the calculation already spinning behind her eyes. Lena, Gloria said finally, voice tight, this is unexpected. Life's full of surprises. Lena's voice was steady, stronger than she felt. Adrian and I were married yesterday. Courthouse ceremony, very private. How romantic. Gloria's smile was pure venom. And so sudden. You've known each other, what, a week? When you know, Adrian said. Isn't that right, darling? He looked at Lena with such convincing affection that for a second she almost believed it herself. Absolutely, she managed. Vanessa appeared, Marcus in tow. She saw Lena and froze. What are you doing here? Vanessa demanded. Attending a fundraiser with my husband, Lena said calmly. Adrian, you remember my stepsister Vanessa and her fiancé Marcus? Marcus looked confused. Vanessa looked like she wanted to commit murder. Husband? Vanessa's voice went shrill. You're married to Adrian Wolf? Small world, isn't it? Lena said. Gloria recovered quickly, slipping back into her polished mask. Well, congratulations to you both. I'm sure you'll be very happy. I'm sure we will, Adrian said. In fact, I was just telling Lena that we should invite family over for dinner soon. Get to know each other better. As family does. The implication was clear. We're connected now. You can't dismiss her anymore. Gloria's jaw tightened. That sounds lovely. We'll have to coordinate schedules. Of course. Adrian's smile was all teeth. Lena has my assistant's information. We'll make it happen. He guided Lena away before Gloria could respond. That went well, he murmured. She's going to come after us. Let her try. They mingled for another hour. Lena smiled until her face hurt, shook hands with people whose names she'd forget tomorrow, played the role of Adrian's loving wife. And all the while, she felt Gloria's eyes on her, watching, calculating, planning. On the drive home, Lena finally let herself breathe. You did good, Adrian said. You sold it. Years of pretending to be invisible. Turns out I'm good at pretending. It wasn't all pretending. She looked at him. What do you mean? You stood up to her, looked her in the eye. That wasn't an act. That was real. Lena turned away, looking out at the city sliding past. It felt good. Seeing her face when you introduced me. Watching her realize she doesn't control me anymore. That's just the beginning. Wait until we hit her with the lawsuit. When? Next week. Your lawyer, whichever one you choose, will file on your behalf. We'll have press ready. By the time Gloria knows what's happening, it'll be too late to stop it. Revenge. Real, tangible revenge. After 3 years of swallowing her anger and surviving on scraps. It should have felt better than it did. Back at the penthouse, Lena changed into comfortable clothes, washed off the makeup, let down her hair. Sat on the couch with a glass of wine, trying to process everything. Adrian joined her, still in his shirt and slacks, tie discarded. Second thoughts? He asked. 1,000 of them. But I'm not backing out. Good. Because we just declared war. And Gloria's not going to take this lying down. What do you think she'll do? Try to dig up dirt on me first. When that fails, and it will, I'm careful, she'll come after you. Try to prove the marriage is fake, or that you're unfit, unstable. The same narrative she's been pushing for 3 years. And we counter with the evidence of her fraud. Exactly. She hits us, we hit back harder, until she has no choice but to settle. Lena took a drink. This is insane. You keep saying that, because it keeps being true. They sat in silence for a while. Comfortable, almost. Two people bound by contract and common enemies, trying to figure out how to exist in the same space. Can I ask you something? Lena said finally. Depends on the question. Your friend, the one Gloria destroyed, what was his name? Adrian's expression shuddered. Why? Because I want to know who we're doing this for. It's not just about my inheritance. Or your trust fund, is it? He was quiet for a long time, then, David Kim. He was my first business partner. Taught me everything about development and investment. He was brilliant, and Gloria used that brilliance against him. I'm sorry she did that to him. And to you. Don't be sorry. Help me make sure she never does it to anyone else. Lena raised her glass. To David, and to everyone Gloria Carter underestimated. Adrian clinked his glass against hers. To war. They drank, and somewhere across the city, Gloria was probably doing the same thing, planning, strategizing, preparing her counterattack. But for the first time in 3 years, Lena wasn't afraid. Because this time, she wasn't alone. This time, she had weapons, and she was finally ready to use them. The first attack came on Monday morning. Lena was drinking coffee in the penthouse kitchen when her phone started blowing up. Text after text from numbers she didn't recognize. Social media notifications flooding in faster than she could read them. She opened Instagram. The first post made her stomach drop. It was a photo of her from 3 months ago, taken outside her old apartment building. She looked exhausted, wearing clothes that had seen better days, carrying grocery bags from the dollar store. The caption read, Adrian Wolf's new wife, more like his charity case. Sources say Lena Carter was practically homeless before landing the billionaire. Gold digger alert. The comments were vicious. She looks like she hasn't showered in a week. Bet she trapped him with a pregnancy. How desperate do you have to be? Lena's hands shook. She scrolled through more posts. Different photos, same narrative. Lena, the struggling nobody. Lena, the opportunist. Lena, who'd clearly married Adrian for his money, which was true, technically, but not the way they were making it sound. Let me guess, Gloria's opening move? She looked up. Adrian stood in the doorway, already dressed for work, expression grim. How did you know? Because I'm getting the same treatment. He showed her his phone. Articles from gossip blogs, financial news sites, even a few legitimate papers, all questioning his judgment, suggesting he'd been manipulated, wondering if this sudden marriage was a sign of instability. She works fast, Lena said. She's had years of practice destroying reputations. Adrian poured himself coffee, movements controlled but tense. This is exactly what I expected. She's trying to undermine our credibility before we can strike. Is it working? Depends. Do you care what strangers on the internet think about you? Lena looked at the comments again, the cruelty, the assumptions. People who didn't know her judging everything about her life based on a handful of photos taken during her worst moments. I care that they're making me look like some desperate parasite. Then we control the narrative. Adrian set down his mug. I have a PR team on retainer. They'll craft our response. Something that humanizes you, explains our relationship in terms that make sense to people who don't know the real story. You mean lie? I mean frame the truth in a way that protects us both. He checked his watch. We're doing a photo shoot this afternoon. Couple shots, interview with a lifestyle magazine. It's already scheduled. You scheduled a photo shoot without telling me? I scheduled it 3 days ago, right after the wedding. I knew Gloria would pull something like this. He met her eyes. This is the part where you have to trust me. I've been managing public perception for 15 years. I know how to handle this. Lena wanted to argue. Wanted to tell him she wasn't some prop he could pose for the cameras. But the comments on her phone were still coming, getting worse by the minute, and she had no idea how to fight this kind of assault. Fine, she said. What time? 3. Diane will send you the details. He left for his office. Lena sat there, watching her phone light up with notifications, each one another tiny cut. She'd known this wouldn't be easy. But knowing and experiencing were different things. The photo shoot was at some loft in Chelsea. Exposed brick, floor-to-ceiling windows, the kind of space that screamed authentic artistic vision while costing $10,000 a day to rent. A woman in her 30s greeted them. Adrian, darling, and you must be Lena. That's me. I'm Simone. I'll be shooting today. She air-kissed Adrian's cheeks, then turned to Lena with a more genuine smile. Don't worry, we're going for natural, candid stuff. Nothing too posed or stuffy, just two people who are clearly in love. Right. Two people who were clearly in love, who'd known each other for a week and married for mutual benefit. No pressure. The shoot started simple. Adrian and Lena sitting on a vintage couch, his arm around her shoulders. Then standing by the windows, her leaning back against him. Then laughing at something Simone's assistant said, the camera clicking away. Beautiful, Simone called out. Lena, tilt your head toward Adrian. Perfect. Adrian, pull her a little closer. Yes, like that. Now look at each other. Lena turned. Adrian was already looking at her, his expression softer than she'd ever seen it. For a second, she forgot about the cameras, forgot this was performance. He looked at her like she mattered. That's the shot, Simone said, satisfied. Hold that. The moment broke. Adrian's mask slipped back into place. But Lena's heart was still racing. After the photos came the interview. A journalist named Rachel, early 40s, sharp eyes that didn't miss anything. They sat in a separate area, Adrian's hand resting casually on Lena's knee. A small gesture, but deliberate, claiming territory. So, Rachel said, recorder between them, you two have certainly caused a stir this week. The sudden wedding, the social media frenzy. Tell me how you met. Adrian handled it smoothly. A mutual friend introduced us about 2 months ago. Private dinner party. I saw her across the room and knew immediately I wanted to know her. Lie number 1. They'd met 6 days ago at Vanessa's engagement party. And you, Lena, what was your first impression? Honestly, I thought he was intimidating. True, at least. But once we started talking, I realized he was more than the reputation. He was real. It moved quickly from there, Adrian continued. We both knew what we wanted. Why wait? Rachel smiled, but her eyes stayed calculating. There's been some speculation online about the nature of your relationship. Some people think it's a business arrangement. Lena's stomach tightened. Adrian didn't flinch. People always speculate when they don't understand something. The truth is simple. I fell in love with someone who sees the world differently than most people in my circle. Someone who's survived things that would break most people. That's not a business transaction. That's finding someone worth building a life with. He sounded so sincere, so convincing. For a second, Lena almost believed him herself. And the timing? Rachel pressed. Right before your 35th birthday, which coincidentally is when your grandfather's trust becomes accessible? Adrian's expression went cold. My personal finances are exactly that, personal. But since you brought it up, yes, the trust has conditions. And yes, I've met them. But reducing my marriage to a financial transaction is insulting to both of us. I didn't mean to. I think we're done here. Adrian stood, helping Lena up. Thank you for your time. They left before Rachel could protest. In the car, Lena exhaled slowly. That was intense. She was fishing, trying to get us to slip up. Adrian loosened his tie. But we didn't. The photos will run this weekend. By Monday, the narrative shifts. We're not a scandal. We're a love story. Built on lies. Built on strategic truth. He looked at her. You did well in there, especially the part about me being real. Nice touch. I wasn't acting. The words came out before Lena could stop them. Adrian's expression shifted. Something uncertain flickered across his face. Neither was I. The silence stretched between them, loaded with things neither of them knew how to say. Lena's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, grateful for the distraction, then wished she hadn't looked. What's wrong? Adrian asked. Text from Vanessa. Lena showed him the screen. You think you're so clever, don't you, marrying Adrian to get back at us? But you're still the same pathetic girl you've always been. And we're going to prove it. Adrian's jaw tightened. Forward that to Margaret. We're documenting everything. You think she's actually going to do something? I think Gloria's using her as a proxy. Vanessa's impulsive, emotional, easier to provoke into making mistakes. He took the phone, forwarded the message himself. Let them come. Every move they make gives us more ammunition. That night, Lena couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about the photo shoot, the way Adrian had looked at her, the things he'd said in the interview that felt too real to be completely fake. This was supposed to be simple, a transaction. 2 years of playing house, then walking away with enough money and evidence to rebuild her life. But nothing about this felt simple anymore. She got up, went to the kitchen, found Adrian already there, working on his laptop, papers spread across the counter. Can't sleep either? He asked, without looking up. Too much noise in my head. She poured water, leaned against the counter. Can I ask you something? Sure. Earlier, in the interview, when you said you weren't acting, did you mean that? Adrian stopped typing, looked at her with an expression she couldn't read. I meant that I respect you, what you've survived, what you're fighting for. He paused. And I meant that this arrangement works better if we're honest with each other. Within the boundaries we've set. The boundaries. 2 years, mutual benefit, no emotional complications. Right. The rules, the safe distance they'd agreed to maintain. And if those boundaries start to blur? Lena asked quietly. Adrian held her gaze. Then we remind ourselves why we're doing this, and we stay focused. That easy? I didn't say easy. I said necessary. He went back to his laptop, conversation closed. Lena went back to bed, more confused than before. The lawyer meeting started the next day. First was Margaret Chen. Lena already knew her, which made the conversation easier. I've reviewed everything Adrian provided, Margaret said, files spread across her desk. The evidence against Gloria is substantial. Falsified signatures, unauthorized transfers, fraudulent contracts. We have grounds for civil litigation and potentially criminal charges. Criminal? Lena's heart jumped. If the DA's office decides to pursue it, yes, but our focus right now is civil. We file a lawsuit to recover your inheritance, restore your rights as Richard Carter's heir, and seek damages for the fraud committed against you. How long will it take? Months, possibly years if Gloria fights hard enough. Margaret's expression softened. But Adrian's backing means we have resources most plaintiffs don't. We can outlast her legal team. And if she settles? We push for full restoration of assets, public acknowledgement of wrongdoing, and enough financial penalty to ensure she thinks twice about trying this again. Public acknowledgement. Gloria admitting what she'd done. The world seeing the truth. That almost mattered more than the money. When do we file? Lena asked. End of the week. I want to make sure every detail is airtight. Margaret leaned forward. Lena, I need you to understand something. Once we file, there's no going back. Gloria will come after you with everything she has. Your life will be examined, criticized, torn apart in public. Are you ready for that? Lena thought about the social media posts, the comments, the years of being invisible while Gloria lived in stolen luxury. I'm ready. Good, because we're about to go to war. The second lawyer was a man named Robert Torres, smaller firm, scrappier reputation, known for taking on powerful defendants and winning. I've seen cases like yours before, Robert said, reviewing the files. Rich person steals from family member, uses legal system to justify it, banks on the victim being too poor or too broken to fight back. That about sums it up. Well, you're not too poor anymore, and you don't look broken to me. He smiled. I'd be honored to take your case, but I'll be honest with you. Margaret's good, better connected than I am. If Adrian's paying either way, she's probably your best bet. Then why am I here? Because Adrian wanted you to have real choices, not just the illusion of choice. Robert leaned back. That tells me he's taking this seriously, taking you seriously. That's rare in arrangements like yours. You know about the arrangement? I know Adrian Wolf doesn't do anything without strategic purpose, but I also know he doesn't go to this much trouble for people he doesn't respect. Robert tapped the files. Whatever this started as, he's invested now. Make sure you are too. The third lawyer was a woman named Patricia Okoye, high-powered, expensive, with a reputation for absolutely destroying opponents in court. Your stepmother made a critical mistake, Patricia said within 5 minutes of meeting. She got greedy. If she'd just managed the estate conservatively, paid you a modest allowance, kept things quiet, she could have maintained control indefinitely, but she overreached, sold properties, moved money, left a trail. So we can win? We can annihilate her. Patricia's smile was sharp. But it'll cost her everything. Her reputation, her social standing, possibly her freedom if we can convince the DA to file charges. Is that what you want? Lena thought about her father, about the gardens he'd built, about 3 years of serving champagne in her own home. Yes. Then let's destroy her. That evening, Lena sat with Adrian in the penthouse office, reviewing all 3 consultations. Patricia's terrifying, Lena said. She's effective, but she's also expensive and ruthless. Some judges don't like her style. Margaret's more diplomatic. Margaret knows how to work the system without alienating people. She'd be my choice. But it's my choice. It is. Adrian looked at her. Who do you trust? Lena thought about it. Margaret had been professional, thorough, honest about the challenges. Patricia had promised destruction but felt like she was more interested in the spectacle than the client. Robert had been genuine but acknowledged his limitations. Margaret, Lena said finally, she feels solid, like she's doing this because it's right, not just for the win. Good instinct. Adrian pulled out his phone, sent a text. I'll let her know. She'll file by Friday. And then? Then Gloria gets served, and everything accelerates. Lena's phone rang. Unknown number. She answered. Hello? You stupid little bitch. Gloria's voice, cold, furious, barely controlled. Did you really think marrying Adrian Wolfe would change anything? You're still the same worthless girl who couldn't even keep her own inheritance. And when I'm done with you, when everyone sees what you really are, Adrian will throw you away like the trash you've always been. Lena's hand tightened on the phone. Are you finished? Stay away from my family, stay away from my business, or I will destroy you, completely. The line went dead. Lena looked at Adrian. She called. Threatened me. Did you record it? No, Next time, record it. We need documentation. He stood. What did she say? Lena repeated the call, word for word. Adrian listened, expression darkening. She's scared, he said finally. Good. Scared people make mistakes. She sounded angry, not scared. Anger is fear wearing a different mask. Adrian walked to the windows, looking out at the city. She's realizing she can't control this. Can't control you. That's what scares her. What if she's right, though? What if this all falls apart and I end up worse off than before? Adrian turned. That's not going to happen. You don't know that. I do, because I don't lose. He crossed to her, close enough that Lena had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. And right now, your fight is my fight, which means we don't lose. The certainty in his voice should have been reassuring. Instead, it made Lena's chest tight. Why are you really doing this? She asked. And don't tell me it's just the trust fund or revenge for David. There's something else. Adrian was quiet for a long moment. Then, when I was 16, my father lost everything in a business deal gone wrong. Bad investment, worse partners. We went from penthouse to one-bedroom apartment in 6 months. I watched my mother fall apart. Watched my father drink himself to sleep every night. Watched them blame each other until there was nothing left. What happened? My grandfather stepped in. Gave my father enough to start over, but with conditions. He had to earn it back. Prove he deserved a second chance. Adrian's jaw tightened. It took 8 years. 8 years of clawing back every dollar, every shred of reputation. And by the time we were stable again, my parents were strangers who hated each other. I'm sorry. Don't be. It taught me 2 things. 1, never give anyone the power to destroy you. And 2, when you see someone being crushed by people who stole their power, you help them take it back. He met her eyes. That's why I'm doing this. Because I know what it's like to watch everything disappear, and I know what it takes to rebuild. Lena's throat burned. Thank you for telling me. Don't thank me yet. We haven't won. But standing there, looking at this man who'd built walls around himself and somehow let her glimpse what was behind them, Lena realized something terrifying. She was starting to care about him. Not as a business partner, not as a convenient ally, as a person, which was exactly what the boundaries were supposed to prevent. Friday came with strange momentum. Margaret filed the lawsuit at 9 a.m. By 10, news outlets were reporting it. By 11, Gloria's lawyers had issued a statement calling it frivolous and defamatory. By noon, Lena's phone was exploding again. But this time, the messages were different. Is this true? Did your stepmother really steal your inheritance? We need to talk. I knew your father. Gloria lied to all of us. I worked at Carter Development. I saw what she did. I'll testify if you need me. People were coming out of the woodwork. Former employees, business associates, people who'd suspected something was wrong but stayed quiet. Until now. It's working, Adrian said, reading through the messages. The lawsuit gives them permission to speak. They're not just gossips anymore. They're potential witnesses. Some of these people, I remember them from before. Lena's voice cracked. They knew. They all knew something was wrong, and nobody said anything. Because they were scared, or didn't think it was their problem, or figured it was easier to go along. Adrian's expression hardened. That's how people like Gloria win, by making everyone else complicit through silence. Well, they're not silent anymore. Margaret called that afternoon with an update. Gloria's lawyer wants to meet. Informal discussion, off the record. They're testing the waters, seeing if we'll settle before this gets ugly. What did you tell them? Lena asked. That we're not interested in settlement discussions until we have full asset disclosure and acknowledgement of wrongdoing. They didn't like that. Good? Lena, I need to prepare you. This is going to get worse before it gets better. Gloria's going to dig into your life. Every mistake, every bad decision, every moment of weakness from the last 3 years. They'll use it to paint you as unstable, unfit. Let them try. I'm serious. If there's anything in your past that could be used against you, tell me now. I need to know what we're defending. Lena thought about it. The depression after her father died, the semester she'd failed out of college, the night she'd cried herself to sleep in that terrible apartment. But none of it was criminal. None of it was proof of instability. It was just grief. Human, messy grief. There's nothing, she said. Nothing they can use. Are you sure? I'm sure. Margaret paused. Okay. Then we move forward. Discovery starts next week. Be ready. That night, Adrian suggested they order in and watch something mindless. Decompress before the real fight began. They ended up on the couch with Thai food and some action movie that required zero brain power. Lena found herself relaxing for the first time in days. Can I ask you something? She said during a particularly ridiculous explosion scene. Sure. Do you ever regret this? The arrangement. Me. Adrian looked at her, surprised. No. Why would I? Because your life was probably a lot simpler before you decided to marry a woman you barely knew and go to war with her psychotic stepmother. He smiled. Actually smiled. Simple's overrated. Besides, I like a challenge. I'm a challenge? You're unpredictable. It's refreshing. Most people find unpredictable annoying. Most people are boring. He grabbed another spring roll. You're not boring, Lena. You're a lot of things. Stubborn, occasionally reckless, definitely too trusting for your own good. But boring? Never. Lena felt heat rise in her chest. Was that a compliment? Don't let it go to your head. They went back to the movie, but Lena couldn't focus. She kept replaying his words, the way he'd said her name, the almost fondness in his tone. The boundaries were definitely blurring, and the worst part was, she wasn't sure she wanted to stop them. Sunday night, 2 days before Discovery was set to begin, Lena got another call. This time, it was Vanessa. I know what you're doing, Vanessa said without preamble. I know you're trying to ruin us. I'm trying to get back what's mine. It was never yours. You were too weak to handle it. Mom saved the company, saved everything Dad built. You would have run it into the ground. Your mom is a thief, and you know it. She's a survivor, something you've never understood. Vanessa's voice turned vicious. You think Adrian really cares about you? He's using you. And when this is over, when you've served your purpose, he'll throw you away, just like everyone else. At least I'll walk away with my dignity. What will you have when Gloria's empire collapses? When everyone finds out you've been living off stolen money? Silence. Then, you're going to regret this. The call ended. Lena sat there, hands shaking, anger and adrenaline coursing through her. Adrian found her 20 minutes later, still sitting in the dark. What happened? She told him. About Vanessa. About the threats. They're panicking, Adrian said. Both calls in 3 days, they're losing control of the narrative. Or they're planning something. Maybe. But we're ready. He sat beside her. Lena, look at me. She did. You're not alone in this. Whatever they throw at us, we face it together. That's the deal. That's what this arrangement means. The arrangement, Lena repeated. Is that really all this is to you? Adrian's expression shifted. Something raw flickered across his face. No, he said quietly. It stopped being just an arrangement somewhere around day 3. Lena's breath caught. What is it now? I don't know, but I know that watching you stand up to Gloria, seeing you refuse to back down despite everything, it reminds me why I got into this business, why I fought so hard to rebuild after my father lost everything. He paused. You're not a transaction, Lena. You're a partner, and maybe something more. The words hung between them, fragile and terrifying. Lena should pull back, should remind him about boundaries and rules and the 2-year timeline. Instead, she leaned forward and kissed him. It was brief, tentative, a question more than an answer. When she pulled back, Adrian was staring at her with an expression she'd never seen before. That was, he started. A mistake? Lena's heart hammered. The opposite of a mistake. He cupped her face, thumb brushing her cheek. But it's complicated. Everything about this is complicated. True, he smiled, soft and real. But maybe complicated isn't so bad. He kissed her again, deeper this time, and Lena felt the last of her careful distance crumble. This was dangerous. This was exactly what they'd agreed not to do. But as Adrian pulled her closer, as the city lights flickered beyond the windows, Lena realized she didn't care. Some rules were meant to be broken, and some boundaries existed just to be crossed. If you or someone you know is having a difficult time, free support is available. Find resources. They didn't talk about the kiss. Not that night, and not the next morning when Lena found Adrian already dressed for work, coffee in hand, acting like nothing had changed. Maybe nothing had. Maybe it was just a moment of weakness. Two people caught up in the intensity of what they were doing, seeking comfort in the wrong place. Except Lena couldn't stop thinking about it. The way Adrian had looked at her, the way his hand had felt against her cheek, the way her entire world had narrowed down to that single moment. She was still thinking about it when Margaret called Monday morning with news that shattered any illusion of normalcy. "We have a problem," Margaret said without preamble. "Gloria's team filed a countersuit." Lena's stomach dropped. For what? Defamation, emotional distress, and abuse of process. They're claiming your lawsuit is frivolous and malicious, designed to extort money and damage her reputation. That's insane. It's strategic. They're trying to make this a he said, she said situation, muddy the waters enough that the truth gets lost in the noise. Margaret's voice was tight. There's more. They've subpoenaed your medical records. My what? They're arguing that your mental state is relevant to the case, that your history of depression and academic struggles after your father's death proves you were unfit to manage the inheritance. They're using your grief against you. Lena felt like she had been punched. Can they do that? They can try. We'll fight the subpoena, but judges sometimes allow it in cases like this, especially when mental competency is part of the original dispute. Margaret paused. Lena, I need to know. Is there anything in those records that could hurt us? Lena thought about the therapist she'd seen for 6 months after her father died, the antidepressants she'd been prescribed, the times she'd admitted she didn't want to get out of bed, didn't see the point in anything. Normal grief, human response to loss. But in the hands of Gloria's lawyers, it would become evidence of instability. I was depressed, Lena said quietly. After my dad died, I saw a therapist, took medication for a while, but I got better. I wasn't unstable. I was grieving. I believe you, but we need to be ready for them to twist it. Margaret's tone softened. How are you holding up? I'm fine. Lena, I'm angry and scared, and I want to burn down everything Gloria's ever built. Lena's voice cracked. Is that holding up? That's honest. Hold on to that anger. We're going to need it. Adrian came home early that afternoon, found Lena sitting on the couch, staring at nothing. Margaret told me, he said, sitting beside her, about the countersuit. They're going after my medical records, my therapy sessions, everything I said when I was at my lowest point. We'll fight it. What if we can't? What if the judge allows it and suddenly my entire breakdown is public record? Lena looked at him, eyes burning. Everyone will see how broken I was, how weak. You weren't weak. You were human. Adrian's voice was firm. And anyone who's lost someone they love understands that. Gloria's counting on people being cruel and judgmental. We're counting on them being decent. That's a hell of a gamble. It's the only one we have. He took her hand, the gesture automatic now, comfortable. Listen to me. I've read those therapy notes. Margaret sent them over so we could prepare. Lena's head snapped up. She did what? She needed my legal team to review them. Standard procedure. He squeezed her hand. And you know what I saw? Someone who was devastated by loss but still showed up to therapy every week. Someone who took medication because they knew they needed help. Someone who slowly, painfully put themselves back together. He paused. That's not weakness, Lena. That's strength. Tears burned behind Lena's eyes. You really believe that? I know it, because I've seen weak people, and you're not one of them. Weak people don't fight back. They don't stand up to the people who destroyed them. They don't marry strangers and go to war. He smiled slightly. They definitely don't kiss their fake husbands and then pretend it didn't happen. Lena let out a watery laugh. We're not talking about that. Apparently we are now. Adrian, it's okay. We don't have to analyze it, but we should probably acknowledge it happened. His thumb traced circles on her hand, and that neither of us regrets it. Lena's breath caught. I don't regret it. Good. Neither do I. He stood, pulling her up with him. Come on. I'm taking you out. Out where? Somewhere that's not this penthouse. Somewhere Gloria and her lawyers can't reach. We both need a break before this gets uglier. They ended up at a small Italian restaurant in the village. No reservations, no special treatment, just a corner table and red wine and pasta that tasted like someone's grandmother made it. Lena couldn't remember the last time she'd felt this normal. Tell me something about yourself that has nothing to do with Gloria or the lawsuit, Adrian said, twirling spaghetti on his fork. That's a small list. Then make it a short story. Lena thought about it. When I was 8, my dad taught me how to ride a bike, except he was terrible at it. Kept letting go too early and I'd crash. After the 5th time, I told him I was done. Never wanted to see another bike. Let me guess. He convinced you to try again. No, he said okay, got me ice cream instead, and we never talked about bikes again. Lena smiled at the memory. But a week later, I found a bike in the garage. Smaller, easier to balance. Training wheels that could be removed one at a time. He'd researched the best method for teaching kids to ride and bought all the equipment. Did it work? I was riding without training wheels within a month. Lena's throat tightened. He never pushed, never made me feel bad for quitting. He just found a better way and let me come to it when I was ready. He sounds like a good father. He was the best. She took a drink of wine. I miss him every day, even more now that I'm fighting for what he built. He'd be proud of you. You think so? I know so. You're doing exactly what he taught you, falling down, getting back up, finding a better way. Adrian met her eyes. And you're not doing it alone this time. The words settled between them, warm and certain. They finished dinner slowly, talking about nothing important. Adrian's college years, Lena's brief stint working at a bookstore, the time James convinced Adrian to go skydiving and immediately regretted it. For a few hours, they weren't weapons aimed at Gloria. They were just two people sharing a meal. It felt dangerous and perfect. Walking back to the car, Adrian's phone rang. He checked it, frowned. I need to take this. Work thing. Go ahead. He stepped away, voice low. Lena watched him, studying the way he held himself. Always controlled, always 3 steps ahead. Except when he looked at her. Then something shifted, something real broke through. She was in so much trouble. We have a situation, Adrian said, coming back. His expression was grim. That was my head of security. Someone's been asking questions about us, digging into our marriage, our timeline, trying to find proof it's fake. Gloria? Probably. Or someone she hired. He opened the car door for her. We need to be more careful, more convincing in public. How much more convincing? Adrian looked at her, something heated in his gaze. Enough that no one doubts we're real. The ride home was quiet, tense. Lena could feel Adrian thinking, planning, strategizing. She was learning to read him, the small tells, the way his jaw tightened when he was angry, the way his fingers drummed against his leg when he was working through a problem. Right now, he was worried, which meant she should be terrified. Back at the penthouse, Adrian poured himself a drink. Whiskey, neat. He stood by the windows looking out at the city. Talk to me, Lena said. What are you thinking? I'm thinking Gloria's smarter than I gave her credit for. She's not just fighting the lawsuit, she's attacking the foundation of our arrangement. If she can prove the marriage is fake, she can argue the whole thing is a conspiracy, that we fabricated evidence to frame her. But we didn't fabricate anything. Doesn't matter if she can create enough doubt. He turned to face her. We need to shore up our story, make it bulletproof. How? By living it, really living it. He set down his glass. No more separate wings. We need to share a bedroom. Make it look like a real marriage to anyone who might be watching. Lena's heart skipped. You want us to sleep in the same bed? I want us to look like a couple who's actually in love. That means shared space, shared routines, the kind of intimacy that can't be faked. He paused. Unless that's a problem. It should be a problem. It should be a huge problem. But all Lena could think about was the kiss and how much she wanted to do it again. It's not a problem, she said quietly. Something flickered in Adrian's eyes. You're sure? Are you? He crossed to her close enough that she had to tilt her head back. I'm sure that I don't want to lose. And I'm sure that whatever's happening between us, it's making this more believable. So maybe we stop fighting it. And after 2 years? When this is over? We'll figure it out then. His hand came up, cupping her jaw. Right now, let's focus on surviving. He kissed her. Slow, deliberate, nothing like the tentative kiss from before. This was certain, claiming. Lena melted into it, hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Adrian rested his forehead against hers. We should set some ground rules, he said. Like what? Like this doesn't change the legal arrangement. 2 years, clean divorce, predetermined terms. Okay. And we're honest with each other. No games, no manipulation. Agreed. And if either of us wants to stop, we stop. No questions asked. Lena pulled back enough to meet his eyes. Do you want to stop? No. But I need to know you're in this for the right reasons. Not because you feel obligated or because you think it'll help the case. I'm in this because when you kiss me, I forget about Gloria and the lawsuit and everything else that's trying to destroy me. Lena's voice shook. I'm in this because you make me feel like I matter, like I'm worth fighting for. Adrian's expression softened. You are worth fighting for. He kissed her again, and this time there was no hesitation, no careful distance. They stumbled toward his bedroom, larger than hers, better view, shedding clothes along the way. Everything was urgent and clumsy and real. This wasn't part of the plan. This was improvisation. Two people who'd built walls around themselves, finding unexpected comfort in each other. Later, lying tangled in sheets, Lena traced patterns on Adrian's chest. We're terrible at boundaries, she said. The worst. He caught her hand, pressed a kiss to her palm. But I don't think I care anymore. What happens when Gloria finds out? She'll use this against us. Let her try. We're married. We're allowed to actually like each other. He pulled her closer. And honestly, I think this makes us stronger. We're not pretending anymore. We're just us. Us, Lena repeated. I like the sound of that. She fell asleep there, wrapped in Adrian's arms, feeling safer than she had in years. The next morning brought reality crashing back. Margaret called before 7. We have the deposition schedule. Gloria's team wants to depose you next week. Lena sat up, careful not to wake Adrian. Already? They're pushing hard, trying to rattle you. Margaret's voice was steady. We'll prep extensively, go over every possible question. By the time you sit across from their lawyer, you'll be ready. What if I'm not? Then we postpone. But Lena, they're counting on you being scared, being unprepared. The best thing we can do is show them you're neither. After the call, Lena stayed in bed, watching Adrian sleep. He looked younger like this, less guarded, almost peaceful. She still couldn't believe this was her life. 2 weeks ago, she'd been invisible. Now she was married to a man who made her feel seen, fighting a war against the woman who'd stolen everything, sleeping in a penthouse that cost more than most people made in a lifetime. It was surreal, terrifying, and somehow, against all odds, right. Adrian's eyes opened. He found her watching him and smiled. Morning. Morning, Margaret called. Deposition's next week. I heard. He sat up, running a hand through his hair. We'll get you ready. You're going to be amazing. How are you so confident? Because I've seen you face down Gloria in person. A deposition is easy compared to that. He kissed her forehead. Come on. Coffee, then we start prep. The next 5 days were brutal. Margaret drilled Lena relentlessly. Questions about her relationship with her father, her mental health, her finances, her marriage to Adrian. Every answer was picked apart, analyzed, refined. They're going to try to make you emotional, Margaret said. Angry or sad or defensive. Don't let them. Stay calm. Stick to the facts. What if they ask about Adrian, about our relationship? Tell the truth. You met, you connected, you got married. They'll try to poke holes in the timeline, but we have the documentation, the photos, the witnesses. Margaret leaned forward. Lena, the key is consistency. Tell the same story every time. Don't embellish. Don't get creative. Just the truth. Adrian sat in on some sessions, offering perspective from his own deposition experience. Their lawyer's going to be aggressive, he said. Probably condescending. That's a tactic. They want you to react. Stay composed, and you win. Easy for you to say. You're always composed. I've had years of practice. You'll get there. At night, they'd collapse into bed, exhausted. But even with everything hanging over them, those moments felt stolen. Precious. Adrian would pull her close, and they'd talk about everything and nothing. His childhood, her dreams before everything fell apart, the life they might build after this was over, if they survived. The deposition was scheduled for Thursday at 9 a.m. Gloria's lawyer's office, neutral territory. Lena barely slept the night before. Adrian stayed up with her, holding her, murmuring reassurances that felt increasingly necessary. You've got this, he said at 3 a.m. You know the truth. That's all you need. What if I freeze? What if I say something wrong? Then Margaret will object, we'll take a break, and we'll regroup. But you won't freeze. You're stronger than you think. Morning came too fast. Lena dressed carefully. Conservative suit, minimal jewelry, hair pulled back. She looked professional, serious. Nothing like the broken girl from 3 years ago. Margaret met them in the lobby of the law office. Remember, calm, factual, consistent. You're doing great already. The conference room was exactly what Lena expected. Long table, uncomfortable chairs, a court reporter set up in the corner. And across the table, Gloria's lawyer, Richard Hastings. Mid-50s, expensive suit, shark smile. Miss Carter, he said, standing. Or should I say Mrs. Wolfe? Hard to keep track these days. Mrs. Wolfe is fine, Lena said evenly. Adrian squeezed her hand under the table, then let go. He and James were there as observers. Moral support. The deposition started simply. Background questions. Education. Employment history. Lena answered carefully, keeping her voice steady. Then Hastings shifted gears. Let's talk about your father's death. You were 22 at the time, correct? Yes, and you took it hard. I was devastated. He was my only parent. Devastated enough that you failed out of college that semester. Lena's chest tightened. I was grieving. My academic performance suffered. You also stopped showing up to work at your part-time job. Yes. And you isolated yourself from friends and family. I needed time to process my loss. Hastings leaned forward. Ms. Carter, isn't it true that you were diagnosed with major depressive disorder following your father's death? Margaret cut in. Objection. Medical records are still under seal pending our motion to quash the subpoena. Withdrawn, Hastings smiled. Let me rephrase. Did you seek mental health treatment in the months following your father's death? Lena glanced at Margaret, who nodded slightly. Yes, I saw a therapist. And were you prescribed medication? Yes. What kind of medication? Antidepressants. Standard treatment for grief-related depression. How long were you on this medication? About 8 months? And during this time, you were meant to be managing a multi-million-dollar inheritance, correct? There it was, the trap. I wasn't managing anything. Gloria was appointed trustee specifically because I was grieving and needed time. But the trust was meant to be temporary. Yet here we are 3 years later, and you're claiming you're suddenly competent to handle assets you couldn't manage at 22? I was never incompetent. I was grieving. There's a difference. Is there? Because from where I'm sitting, a young woman who can't get out of bed, can't hold a job, can't function in society, that sounds like someone who shouldn't be trusted with significant financial assets. Lena felt anger flare. She tamped it down. I got help. I recovered. I'm not that person anymore. Aren't you? You were living in poverty until very recently, working menial jobs, barely scraping by. That doesn't sound like someone who's capable of managing a real estate empire. That poverty was a result of Gloria's theft, not my incompetence. Or it's a result of your inability to provide for yourself without Daddy's money. Objection, Margaret said sharply. Argumentative and insulting. Sustained, the court reporter noted mechanically. Hastings smiled. Let's move on. Tell me about your relationship with Adrian Wolfe. When did you meet? Lena took a breath, steadied herself. About 2 months ago, at a private dinner party. And you married him how long after meeting? Approximately 6 weeks. That's quite fast. When you find the right person, timing doesn't matter. How romantic. Hastings pulled out a folder. Except our investigation shows no record of you two being seen together before your wedding. No photos, no witnesses, no restaurant reservations or hotel stays. Almost like you didn't actually date at all. Lena's pulse jumped, but she kept her voice level. We kept our relationship private. Adrian values discretion. Or you fabricated a relationship to legitimize this lawsuit and secure Mr. Wolfe's trust fund, which, coincidentally, requires him to be married by his 35th birthday, which is next month. That's not what happened. Then explain to me how a woman who can barely afford rent suddenly marries one of the wealthiest men in the city and immediately files a massive lawsuit against her stepmother. That's quite a coincidence. It's not a coincidence, it's justice. It's opportunism. Hastings leaned back. You saw a chance to get money and revenge, and you took it. Used your marriage as leverage. And now you're sitting here pretending to be a victim when really you're just as calculating as you claim Gloria is. Lena's hands shook. She pressed them flat against the table. I'm sitting here because Gloria Carter stole my inheritance, destroyed my father's company, and spent 3 years watching me suffer while she lived in luxury. I married Adrian because he offered me a way to fight back. And yes, it's unconventional. Yes, it happened fast. But that doesn't make it fake. And it doesn't make what Gloria did any less criminal. Silence filled the room. Hastings studied her. We'll see what the evidence says. The deposition continued for 3 more hours. Questions about finances, about the lawsuit, about every detail of Lena's life for the past 3 years. By the time it ended, Lena was exhausted, wrung out, but she'd held her ground. In the car afterward, Adrian pulled her close. You were incredible. I almost lost it when he called me calculating. But you didn't. You stayed calm and you told the truth. He kissed her temple. You were perfect. Margaret called that evening with her assessment. You did well, really well. Hastings was trying to break you, and you didn't break. She paused. But I need to tell you something. They're going to use your relationship with Adrian as their main defense. Claim the marriage is a sham designed to fund this lawsuit. Can they prove that? They'll try. Which means we need to be ready with our own proof. Photos, witnesses, documentation of your relationship. Margaret's voice turned serious. Lena, I know this started as an arrangement, but if there's anything real between you and Adrian, now's the time to lean into it, because that's what's going to save this case. After the call, Lena found Adrian in his office, working late. Margaret says we need more proof of us being real. Adrian looked up. What kind of proof? I don't know. More public appearances? More photos? She hesitated. She said if there's anything real between us, we should show it. And is there? Adrian asked quietly. Something real? Lena crossed to him, stood between his knees as he sat in his chair. You tell me. He pulled her down, kissed her thoroughly. Yeah, he said against her lips. There's definitely something real. Good, because I'm in too deep to pretend otherwise. So am I. They stayed like that, wrapped in each other, the city glittering beyond the windows. Two people who'd started as strangers, bound by contract and mutual need. Now something more. Something neither of them had planned for. Something worth fighting for. And fight they would. Because Gloria wasn't done. The deposition was just the opening move. The real war was still coming. But this time, Lena wasn't facing it alone. This time, she had Adrian. And maybe, just maybe, that would be enough. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. 2 weeks after the deposition, Margaret called with news that changed everything. We have a witness, former CFO of Carter Development, Thomas Morrison. He's willing to testify. Lena's heart jumped. Morrison? I remember him. He worked with my dad for years. He left the company 6 months after Gloria took over. Apparently, he's been sitting on documentation of her fraud this whole time, waiting for someone to fight back. Why didn't he come forward before? He tried, went to the board, got shut down. Gloria had them all in her pocket by then. Margaret's voice was tight with controlled excitement. But he kept copies, bank transfers, emails, meeting notes where Gloria discussed moving assets offshore. Lena, this is everything we need. Adrian was pacing when Lena told him. Morrison, I know that name. He had a reputation for being honest, refused to play politics. Dad trusted him completely. Lena felt something crack open in her chest. Hope, maybe. Or vindication. If he testifies, if he has proof, then we don't just win the civil case. We give the DA enough to file criminal charges. Adrian stopped pacing, looked at her. This is it. The evidence that buries Gloria for good. They met Morrison 3 days later at Margaret's office. He was in his 60s now, gray-haired and tired-looking, but his eyes were sharp. Lena, he said, standing when she entered, you look like your father. Same determination. Mr. Morrison, thank you for coming forward. Should have done it years ago, but I was scared. Gloria made it clear what happened to people who crossed her. He sat heavily. When I heard you were fighting back, I knew I had to help. Richard would have wanted that. Hearing her father's name from someone who'd known him, who'd worked beside him, made Lena's throat tight. Morrison opened his briefcase, pulled out folders. I have everything. The real books versus what Gloria showed the board. Transfer records to shell companies. Communications about hiding assets. She was systematic about it. Thought she'd covered her tracks. But she didn't count on you keeping copies, Margaret said. She didn't count on anyone caring enough to use them. Morrison looked at Lena. Your father built something good. Something that mattered. Gloria turned it into a cash machine for herself and Vanessa. I watched her sell off properties your dad spent years developing. Watched her fire people who'd been loyal for decades. All so she could fund that lifestyle. Will you testify to all of this? Margaret asked. I'll testify to everything. Put me on the stand. Let me tell the world what she did. After Morrison left, Margaret was practically vibrating with energy. This changes everything. With his testimony and documentation, Gloria's entire defense collapses. The fraud is documented. The theft is proven. She can't claim she was protecting the estate. She was looting it. When do we file the new evidence? Lena asked. Immediately. And I'm calling the DA's office today. This isn't just civil anymore. This is criminal fraud, embezzlement, possibly racketeering if we can prove the shell companies were part of a larger scheme. Adrian's expression was grim satisfaction. How long before Gloria knows? She'll know by tomorrow. Her lawyers will get copies of Morrison's deposition and the supporting documents. Margaret smiled. I suspect she'll want to talk settlement pretty quickly after that. That night, Lena couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about Morrison's words, about her father, about everything that had been stolen and was finally being returned. Adrian found her on the couch at 2 a.m., staring at the city. Can't shut your brain off? He asked, sitting beside her. I keep thinking about my dad, about how proud he'd be that people like Morrison are finally speaking up. She leaned against him. And how angry he'd be that it took this long. He'd be proud of you for fighting, for not giving up. I wanted to give up so many times. Before you showed up, I was disappearing, becoming invisible, accepting that this was just my life now. Adrian pulled her closer. You were surviving. There's no shame in that. But I wasn't living. I was just existing, going through motions, waiting for nothing. She turned to look at him. You gave me something to fight for. Not just the inheritance, but myself. The person I used to be before Gloria took everything. You gave yourself that. I just provided resources. He tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. But I'm glad I could help. And I'm glad you let me. Are you still glad? Now that this is getting real? Now that we're actually about to win? Why wouldn't I be? Because once we win, once the 2 years are up, we're supposed to walk away. That was the deal. Lena's voice dropped. But I don't want to walk away anymore. Adrian was quiet for a long moment. Neither do I. So what do? We finish this. We destroy Gloria. We get your inheritance back. And then, he smiled slightly, then we figure out what comes next. Together. Together, Lena repeated. I like that plan. He kissed her, soft and certain, and for the first time in weeks, Lena felt like maybe everything would actually be okay. Gloria's response came faster than expected. Her lawyers requested an emergency meeting. Settlement discussion, they called it. Margaret smelled blood in the water. They're panicking. Morrison's testimony is airtight, and they know it. They want to settle before this goes to trial and becomes public. What are they offering? Lena asked. We'll find out tomorrow, but whatever it is, we're not taking the first offer. We're going to squeeze every last concession we can get. The meeting was at a neutral location, conference room in a hotel, fancy but impersonal. Gloria's legal team was already there when they arrived, but Gloria wasn't. Mrs. Carter is not feeling well, Hastings said stiffly. She's authorized us to negotiate on her behalf. Translation. Gloria was too scared to face Lena directly. Good. Hastings laid out their offer, full restoration of the inheritance, all properties returned, a lump sum payment for damages, and a private apology. Private? Margaret said coldly. Absolutely not. My client is willing to admit wrongdoing in a closed settlement, but a public apology would destroy her reputation. Her reputation should be destroyed, Lena said. She's a thief and a liar. Why should she get to walk away with her dignity intact? Because if she doesn't, we go to trial. This becomes a media circus. Your medical records become public. Your relationship with Mr. Wolf gets dissected. Every ugly detail comes out. Let it come out, Lena said. I've got nothing to hide. Adrian's hand found hers under the table, supportive, proud. Hastings shifted tactics. Ms. Carter, be reasonable. You'll get everything back. The money, the properties, control of the company. Isn't that enough? No, because this isn't just about me. It's about everyone else she's hurt. Everyone she's stolen from. Everyone who's been too scared to fight back. Lena leaned forward. I want a public apology. I want her to admit on record what she did. I want the world to know the truth. That's not going to happen. Then we'll see you in court. Margaret started gathering files. And when we're done, Gloria won't have anything left to protect. No reputation, no money, no company. Nothing. Hastings' face went red. You're making a mistake. No. Gloria made the mistake. We're just making her pay for it. They walked out. In the elevator, Margaret was grinning. That was perfect. They'll come back with a better offer within 48 hours. And if they don't, Lena asked, then we go to trial and we annihilate them. Either way, you win. Adrian squeezed her hand. Told you, you're incredible. The better offer came that evening. Full restoration, damages, and a public statement acknowledging accounting errors and mismanagement during Gloria's trusteeship. It's not an apology, Margaret said over the phone, but it's close. And it'll be public record. Not good enough, Lena said. I want the word fraud. I want her to admit she stole from me, or we don't settle. Lena, this is a good offer. If we push too hard, they'll cave, because they know what we have. They know Morrison's testimony will destroy her. They're scared. Lena's voice was steel. So we push. After the call, Adrian looked at her with something like wonder. You've changed. Since that first night at the party. You're not the invisible girl anymore. No, I'm not. Lena smiled. I'm the woman who's about to take down Gloria Carter. And I'm not settling for anything less than complete victory. The third offer arrived 2 days later. Full restoration of all assets, $50 million in damages. and a public statement admitting to fraudulent mismanagement of estate assets and theft of inheritance belonging to Lena Carter. It was everything, every single thing they'd asked for. She agreed? Lena couldn't believe it. She agreed. The statement goes out Monday. The assets transfer within 30 days. It's over. Margaret sounded exhausted and elated. Lena, you won. You actually won. Lena sat down hard, legs suddenly weak. It's really over? It's really over. She looked at Adrian. He was smiling, genuine and warm. You did it, he said. We did it. He pulled her into his arms, and Lena finally let herself feel it. Relief, victory, joy. 3 years of hell, 3 years of being invisible, being broken, being nothing. And now she was everything again. The public statement went live Monday morning. Gloria's lawyers posted it on the Carter Development website, sent it to every major news outlet, filed it with the court. By noon, it was everywhere. Financial blogs picked it up first, then mainstream news. By evening, it was trending on social media. Gloria Carter, society darling and real estate mogul, had admitted to stealing millions from her stepdaughter. The fallout was immediate and brutal. Vanessa called, screaming, "You destroyed us! You destroyed everything!" No, Lena said calmly. Your mother destroyed everything when she decided to steal from me. I just made sure everyone knew about it. You're going to regret this. When Marcus leaves me, when we lose everything, when we're the ones living in poverty, then you'll know exactly how I felt for 3 years. Enjoy. Lena hung up. Adrian was watching with approval. Cold. I like it. I'm done being nice to people who tried to break me. The company board called an emergency meeting, voted unanimously to remove Gloria as CEO, asked Lena if she wanted the position. She said yes. Not because she knew what she was doing. She didn't. She was 25 years old with no business experience. But it was her father's company, and she'd be damned if she let someone else control it ever again. Morrison agreed to stay on as CFO. At least until you find your footing, your father would want someone watching your back. Thank you for everything. Thank you for fighting. I should have done it years ago, but I'm glad you did. The first board meeting was terrifying. Lena sat at the head of the table, her father's chair, and tried not to shake. Adrian sat in the back, there for moral support. He'd offered advice, but refused to take any official role. This is your company, your legacy. I'm just here if you need me. I'll always need you, she'd said. Good, because you're stuck with me. The board members were watching her, waiting. Some skeptical, some curious, all wondering if Richard Carter's daughter had what it took. Let's start with the damage assessment, Lena said, voice steadier than she felt. I want a full accounting of every property sold, every asset moved, every decision Gloria made. And then I want a plan to fix it. Morrison smiled. Already prepared. If you'll look at the first document. The meeting lasted 3 hours. By the end, Lena's head was spinning with numbers and strategies and decisions that felt too big for her. But she'd done it. Led her first board meeting. Started the process of rebuilding what Gloria had broken. Small steps, but steps forward. That night, exhausted and overwhelmed, Lena collapsed on the couch. How do you do this every day? She asked Adrian. Make decisions that affect hundreds of people? Manage something this big? Practice. And good people around you. You have Morrison. You'll hire more people you trust. You'll learn. He sat beside her. And you'll be great at it. Because you actually care. That's more than most CEOs can say. I'm terrified I'll screw it up. Then you'll fix it. That's what leadership is. Making mistakes and fixing them. He pulled her against him. But I don't think you'll screw it up. I think you're going to build something your father would be proud of. The tears came then, not sad tears. Relief, pride, grief for what she'd lost, and joy for what she'd reclaimed. Adrian held her through it all. 3 months later, things had settled into a new normal. The company was stabilizing. Lena had hired a management team she trusted, brought back some of the employees Gloria had fired, started reversing the damage. It was slow, hard. Some days she wanted to quit, but she didn't. The civil settlement had been finalized. $50 million deposited into Lena's account. The Belmont estate returned to her name, along with every other property Gloria had stolen. Lena had moved back in, walked through rooms that had been taken from her, reclaimed every inch. She'd offered to keep the penthouse, too. "We're married. We should probably live together." "You want to stay married?" Adrian had asked carefully. "Well, we have 18 months left on the contract. Seems wasteful to end it early." "Very practical." His smile was soft. "Or we could admit this stopped being a contract somewhere around week 2 and we're just making excuses." "We could do that too." They'd kept both places. Spent weekends at the estate, weekdays at the penthouse. It worked. The DA had filed criminal charges against Gloria. The trial was set for next year. Lena would have to testify, face her stepmother in court one more time. She wasn't scared anymore. Vanessa had filed for divorce from Marcus. Apparently being married to the daughter of a convicted fraudster wasn't good for his image. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Gloria was under house arrest, wearing an ankle monitor, waiting for trial. Her bank accounts frozen, her reputation destroyed, everything she'd built on stolen money crumbling around her. Lena should feel vindicated. She did. But she also felt something unexpected. Pity. Not for what Gloria had lost, she'd earned that, but for the fact that Gloria had thrown everything away for money that wasn't even hers, had destroyed relationships, ruined lives, all for greed. It seemed like such a waste. "You're too good," Adrian said when she mentioned it. "She tried to destroy you. She doesn't deserve your pity." "Maybe not, but holding on to anger only hurts me." Lena leaned against him. They were at the estate, in the gardens her father had built. "I'd rather focus on what comes next." "And what does come next?" "I've been thinking about that." Lena turned to face him. "The estate is too big for just me, too empty. I was thinking about turning it into something useful." "Like what?" "A community center. Programs for kids who've lost parents, legal aid for people fighting against fraud or family theft, support groups, education." She smiled. "My dad built this place to be a home. I want it to be that for other people, too." Adrian's expression went soft. "That's perfect." He'd love that. "Would you help me? Design the programs, set up the foundation?" "Of course, but Lena, this is your project, your vision. I'm just support staff." "You're more than that." She took his hands. "You're my partner, in everything." "Partner," Adrian repeated. "I like that." "Good, because I'm not letting you go. Contract or no contract. You're stuck with me." "Best mistake I ever made." He kissed her, soft and sure. "Marrying you." "It wasn't a mistake." "No. It was the smartest thing I've ever done." They stood there in the garden, surrounded by roses and jasmine, planning a future neither of them had expected. A year later, the Carter Community Center opened its doors. The ballroom where Lena had once served champagne was now a multi-purpose space for classes and events. The guest rooms were counseling offices. The grounds hosted youth programs and summer camps. The opening ceremony was packed. Former employees of Carter Development, people who'd been helped by the legal aid program, families who'd benefited from the support groups. And standing beside Lena, cutting the ribbon, was Adrian. Not as a business arrangement, not as a temporary solution. As her husband, real, permanent, chosen. They'd torn up the prenup 6 months ago, signed new papers, no end date, no predetermined divorce, just a marriage built on trust and partnership and something that had started as necessity and become love. Morrison gave a speech, talked about Richard Carter's vision, about building things that mattered, about legacy. Richard built an empire on the foundation of caring about people. His daughter is honoring that legacy in the best possible way, by giving back, by helping others the way she wished someone had helped her. He looked at Lena. "He'd be so proud of you." Lena's eyes burned. Adrian squeezed her hand. After the ceremony, they walked through the center, saw kids laughing in the gardens, saw counselors meeting with clients, saw the legal team preparing cases for people who couldn't afford representation. This was what victory looked like. Not just reclaiming what was stolen, but building something better from the ashes. "Your father would be proud," Adrian said quietly. "Yeah, I think he would." They found a quiet corner, away from the crowds. Adrian pulled her close. "I love you," he said, Simple. True. I love you too. Lena smiled. Even though you blackmailed me into marrying you. Technically, I offered you a business arrangement. You're the one who fell in love with me. Pretty sure it was mutual. Pretty sure you're right. He kissed her, and Lena felt everything click into place. This was her life now. Not the stolen version Gloria had tried to force her into. Not the invisible existence she'd been surviving in. This, real, messy, beautiful, a life she'd fought for and won. A life with Adrian. With purpose. With meaning. 3 years ago, she'd been invisible. Broken. Lost. Now she was found. She was seen. She was whole. And the woman who'd tried to destroy her was nothing more than a cautionary tale. Gloria's trial had ended in conviction. 5 years for fraud, 3 for embezzlement, to be served consecutively. She'd appealed, but no one expected it to work. Vanessa had disappeared from public life, working some corporate job under her mother's maiden name, avoiding the spotlight. Lena didn't think about them much anymore. They were the past. Footnotes in a story that had moved beyond them. Her story now was about building, creating, helping, and love. Unexpected, unconventional love with a man who'd started as a stranger and become her everything. "What are you thinking about?" Adrian asked. "How 3 years ago I was serving champagne at Vanessa's engagement party. Invisible. Nothing. And now," she gestured at the center, at the life they'd built. "Now I'm here. You were never nothing. Even when you felt invisible, you were everything. You just needed the right person to see it. Apparently, I needed the right ruthless businessman to blackmail me into a fake marriage." Adrian laughed. "Best business decision I ever made. Worst contract negotiation of my life. I should have asked for more than $5 million. You got everything. The inheritance, the company, the estate." He pulled her closer. "And me. That's worth at least $10 million. Maybe 15, 20, and I'll consider it a compliment." They were still laughing when James found them. "There you two are. The photographer wants couple shots for the website." "Coming," Lena said. But she took a moment first, stood in the garden her father had built, now part of something bigger, something that would help people for years to come. Stood next to the man who'd given her a way to fight back and ended up giving her so much more. And felt, for the first time in 3 years, completely at peace. She wasn't the invisible girl anymore. She was Lena Wolf, CEO, philanthropist, survivor, fighter. And she'd built a life that no one could ever take away again. The photographer positioned them by the rose bushes, Adrian's arm around her waist, both of them smiling. Real smiles. Not performance, not pretense. Just two people who'd found each other in the wreckage and built something beautiful. The camera clicked, and Lena thought about that night at Vanessa's party. The moment Adrian had appeared from the shadows with his impossible offer. Marry him or lose everything. She'd thought it was a devil's bargain, a desperate gamble. She'd been wrong. It was salvation. Not just from Gloria, but from the person she was becoming. The invisible, broken version of herself who'd forgotten how to fight. Adrian had reminded her who she was, and then he'd stood beside her while she became someone even stronger. "You good?" he asked quietly. "Yeah, I'm perfect. Not perfect, but close," says the man who married a stranger to secure a trust fund. Says the woman who agreed to marry him. "We're both slightly insane." "Good thing we found each other then," the photographer finished. People started drifting toward the reception area. Lena and Adrian stayed in the garden a moment longer. "Thank you," Lena said, "for everything. For seeing me when no one else did. For giving me the resources to fight. For being my partner through all of this. Thank you for taking a chance on a calculated bastard with boundary issues and a tendency to blackmail people into marriage." Adrian smiled. "Best risk you ever took. Best risk we both took." They walked back toward the center, hand in hand, ready to celebrate what they'd built. Behind them, the roses bloomed. Her father's garden, alive and thriving, part of something bigger now. And ahead, a future neither of them had planned, but both of them had chosen. Together. The invisible girl who became impossible to ignore. The calculating man who learned that some things were worth more than strategy. And a love story that started with a contract and became something neither of them could have predicted. Real. Messy. Imperfect. and absolutely worth fighting for.